What's up, everybody? Andrew Cooper here from Fantasy Alarm. And as always, on Monday, time to comb through the rubble from Sunday, hit on some snap counts, some usage, some carries, targets, all the important information, the injuries, everything you need to know to move forward with this week. It's what we do every Monday. We do fun stuff on Tuesday and Wednesday with the Waiver Wire show. I'll be on the Sirius XM show filling in for Jim Bowden all week, 6 to 8 p.m., channel 87, because he's doing World Series boring baseball stuff. So we got plenty of fun stuff to do today. We're doing real quick, 20, 30 minutes, hit on every single game, give you the information you need. Quick shout out to Fantasy Alarm, of course, but also sites like Pro Football Focus, Fantasy Points Data, Player Profiler, StatHead, you name it. We go through, we comb through, figure out what happened here with the week. So without further ado, let's get into it. In fact, one last further ado, just because it's super rare, we're having a flash sale right now. Started yesterday. I just checked. It's still active. Hopefully, it's still active when you check this video. Our annual membership was 40% off for hopefully the rest of today. It is an additional 10% off. So 50% off, $50 cheaper than what it usually is if you use promo code YEAR, YEAR, over at fantasyalarm.com. There's no better time to get in than right now. We're in the heart of football season. You're going to get all, because it's a full year, you get all of baseball season. You get all the way around through basketball and hockey, all the way to next year, and the rankings for basketball and hockey drafts next year. So no better time than right now. Use promo code YEAR, YEAR, to get 50% off the annual membership. Anyway, let's get into it. First game we're going to look at, Eagles at Bengals here. On the Eagles side, there was no Dallas Goedert. So you see Grant Calcaterra play that tight end role. He hasn't been super efficient. We're not really using him. We don't really even love Goddard when he's healthy because he's the third fiddle. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are the top guys. A.J. Brown's consistent. Devonta Smith, he disappears at times like he did last week. This week, they only dropped back to pass 22 times. Smith ran 22 routes. A.J. Brown ran 21, 8 targets, 6 targets. They don't really use the slot wide receiver, so Jahan Dotson didn't do a whole lot. So not much to say there. Saquon Barkley played 50 of 61 snaps, so he's the guy. Kenneth Gainwell has been operating ahead of Will Shipley, so he'd be the next man up. On the Bengals side, Jamar Chase is, of course, Jamar Chase, so he's the top guy there. No T. Higgins. He's dealing with a quad issue. As we saw earlier this year, that means Andre Yosivas comes out and plays a bigger role. Chase played 55 snaps. Yosivas played 51. So even though he only got 3 targets, he was out there. 40 routes out of 40 for Chase, 38 out of 40 for Yosiva. As we saw earlier this year, Mike Gesicki got a little boost. Now, he only ran 24 of 40 routes, but he played a lot of his snaps at wide receiver. Basically, what they do is they have him play more wide receiver. They have Eric All and Drew Sample play inline. So he got 8 targets. As long as Higgins is out, he's a guy that you might throw as a dart throw on DFS or maybe use in a pinch in a lineup. But if Higgins is back, then we don't really like Yosivas or Gesicki or any of these guys because it's just Chase and Higgins at that stage. Got to keep an eye on this injury. With the running backs, Chase Brown earned more of a starting role, more carries. So he got 12 carries to 5 for Zach Moss, but that put Zach Moss into kind of a pass catching role. So Zach Moss caught more passes, or he got 4 targets to 3 for Chase Brown, but they're both kind of playing in both capacities. Chase Brown just has the better role. So it's Chase Brown ahead of Zach Moss. Zach Moss doesn't need to be rostered, but they're splitting enough that you can kind of utilize both guys. Ravens at Browns is the next one here. We'll look at the Browns first. With no Amari Cooper, Cedric Tillman has stepped into that role. So Jerry Jeudy led with 67 of 69 snaps. Cedric Tillman, 62 of 69 snaps. Elijah Moore is the guy that's the part-time guy that comes out for 2 tight end sets, 49 of 69 snaps. I mean, they all got targeted a ton. Jeudy got 7, Tillman got 9, Elijah Moore got 12. He's fairly inefficient, but Jeudy and Cedric Tillman are the guys you want to look at. And clearly, Jameis Winston likes throwing the deep ball to Cedric Tillman. So wheels up for him. You definitely got to move him up a little bit. I was cautious, but 40 of 43 routes. He's out there. He's a full-time player right now. They're seeing what he can do. David Njoku, he only got 6 targets here, but 6 targets is all we need in this world, right? 6 targets a game is a 90-plus target pace, and that's what we need for top 5 upside. So Njoku is always a good start. Nick Chubb, good news for him. He played 41 snaps out of 69, got the bulk of the carries. Pierre Strong got some pass work. Donta Foreman got a little run work, but Nick Chubb led in all phases. He led in carries. He led in routes run. He's the guy. So good to see that. Baltimore Ravens side, Zay Flowers dealing with some issues, but apparently that wasn't a big deal. 12 targets for him. Rashad Bateman played 57 snaps to 59 for Flowers. That's out of a total of 68. He only got 3 targets, but he's the next best option there. He has been all year. So he's in consideration. But after Flowers, they kind of spread it out around. Mark Andrews has been a touchdown machine, and he also ran 33 of 43 routes, which isn't ideal. It's not what we were used to last year for him, but trending in the right direction. He ran more routes than Isaiah Likely, got more targets, scored again. So Mark Andrews back on the menu. Running backs, it's Derrick Henry as a starter, Justice Hill contributing on some pass downs. They did pass a little more because of the game script here, and they actually lost the game, which is that's how it goes with division rivalries. 33 snaps for Henry, 34 for Justice Hill, but you start Henry every week. You only start Justice Hill in PPR if you must. Titans at Colts. We're going to try and go quick here. But what's most important is we're going to cover the information. All right. So if it goes a little longer than normal because there's no bye weeks this week, I don't care. Detroit Lions at Titans. This was the absolute blowout. So can't really just compare raw snaps, right? Jared Goff only threw for 85 yards because they were, returning kicks and 70-yard touchdown for Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery threw a touchdown pass to Sam Laporta. It was just all over the place. But you can count on Amon-Ra St. Brown. That we know. Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are always good starts. Sam Laporta got 6 targets here, come around a little bit, but we'll have to see when Jameson Williams gets back. For one more game while Jameson Williams is suspended, Tim Patrick did play ahead of Allen Robinson. They split the snaps. It was 37 snaps for Patrick, 21 for Robinson, 15 for Khalif Raymond. So I know Khalif Raymond had a fun game, but can't really start that guy. Can't really start any of these guys. I'm starting Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, and the 2 running backs. And then when Jameson Williams gets back, we'll consider him. With the Titans, they just traded DeAndre Hopkins away, so someone had to step up. That someone was Nick Westbrook-Akine. 70 of 76 snaps for him. He actually played more snaps than Calvin Ridley, probably because Calvin Ridley was tired from getting a million targets. 14 targets for him, even a carry. Calvin Ridley obviously wanted to get him back involved. They did. So I know it was a crazy game script, but Calvin Ridley, if he's going to get targeted like that by Mason Rudolph, when Will Levis is out, the Titans actually have a really good pass schedule down the stretch. So could do worse than Ridley, but it would be nice if he had a consistently good quarterback, and that's not the case. It won't be the case with Levis gets back. It's not the case with Rudolph in there. Tyler Boyd was still just the slot guy, only 29 of 42 routes. Even though he got 6 targets, he was playing behind Akine and Ridley. So Akine really deep league consideration, but besides that, it's really just Calvin Ridley. The tight ends rotated 28 routes for Okonkwo to 11 for Wiley, but that's out of 42. So they're still going to be ranked at the back end of the tight end 2 range at best. And then with no Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard played a ton. Julius Chestnut checked in a little bit. 62 snaps for Pollard, 14 for Julius Chestnut. Great name, but not great usage. Next game, Colts at Texans. On the Texans side, Stephon Diggs got hurt. We're checking to see if it's an ACL. Some people are saying it could be. Regardless, it sounds like he's going to miss some time here. So Tank Dell stepped up, played virtually the whole game. Nico Collins will be back soon. For the time being, Xavier Hutchinson plays Nico Collins' role on the outside. John Mechie is the guy that stepped up and played kind of in that Stephon Diggs role after he got hurt. That's per Nathan Yankee over at PFF that was tracking that. So shout out to him for keeping an eye on that for everybody. So for the time being, Tank Dell gets the boost, and then Hutchinson and Mechie are kind of like DFS start throws, but Nico Collins will be back, and it'll back to be what it was last year, whenever it was healthy. Nico Collins and Tank Dell as the top 2 guys. Now, you're going to want to move Dalton Schultz up, but don't go crazy because last year with Dalton Schultz, he essentially, in the games where one of Nico or Dell missed, he was getting 7 targets a game. That's great. So if one of those guys is out, Nico's going to be out at least another game, then you could start that guy. But when they were both healthy, he was getting 4.2 targets a game. Can't trust that. Not to mention, Cade Stover and Tegan Quatoriano are playing a little bit more. So Dalton Schultz only played 47 of 71 snaps. He did run 31 of 40 routes, but they're using other guys to block that are just better blockers than Schultz. So it's not like it's wheels up for him like it is for some other guys we'll talk about. Like David Njoku obviously wheels up once they traded Amari Cooper. There's another guy here that you should definitely trade for that I'm going to talk about shortly. Joe Mixon is awesome. He continues to be awesome. 54 of 71 snaps. Dare Goombawali pitched in on a couple pass plays. Damian Pierce on a couple run plays, but Pierce only played 4 snaps. It really is a Joe Mixon show. On the Colts side, Michael Pittman played his full-time role. Alec Pierce played opposite him on the outside. 61 snaps for Pittman out of 64, 50 for Pierce, 45 for Downs, but Downs ran 31 routes to 30 for Pierce. We like to see that. They got him more involved, got him 8 targets. Josh Downs, after last week, they probably sat down and told Anthony Richardson, hey, this guy's good. We have to get him the ball. We have to scheme things up for him. 8 targets for him. He had the huge touchdown, which obviously boosts his stats up over 100. But, He's not really that kind of guy. He's more of like a 60, 70-yard guy with a bunch of targets. But in PPR, that works for us. Adonai Mitchell was on the outside looking in. The tight ends rotated all over the place. Out of 39 possible pass plays, you had 12 routes for Will Mallory. He ran a route on every pass play he was out there, but only 12 out of 39. 10 for Kylan Granson, 8 for Mo Cox, 5 for Andrew Ogletree. Don't worry about it. Even if you could fuse them all into one player, it wouldn't be that good of a situation. Jonathan Taylor came back 52 snaps out of 64. He rules. Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson went on the back burner. Tyler Goodson way on the back burner, only 2 snaps. So hopefully you didn't drop too much fab on him last week. He was kind of the best available. So in deeper leagues, you want to hold on to him in case something happens to Taylor, but he's unstartable, obviously, for the time being. Neither is Trey Sermon if they're going to do it like this. I mean, so many snaps for Jonathan Taylor. There's only so much you can do. We got next one here, Jacksonville at Packers. On the Packers side, Romeo Dubs played 59 of 70 snaps, ran 29 of 30 routes. That's been the case. Every game that Romeo Dubs has been active, which is the one he was suspended is the only other one. He has led this team in routes, and he's always up there in targets. So Romeo Dubs is the most consistent guy. Jaden Reed plays in the slot, right? So what they've been doing is they've been having Dubs on the outside. His role is locked in. Jaden Reed plays in the slot, and he gets a couple carries, but he doesn't play in 2 wide receiver sets. That's been the case for him going back to last year. Does cap his upside a little bit, right? He's not like every down guy like Chris Godwin. I think he will be at some point in his career, so buy him in Dynasty. But right now, he does have kind of a capped upside a little bit, just a little bit. He ran 20 routes out of 30. Then they've been rotating Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks on the outside opposite Dubs. But this week, Christian Watson played much more than Wicks. 52 snaps out of 70 for Watson, only 21 for Wicks. So it went 59 for Dubs, 52 for Watson, 41 for Reed, 21 for Wicks. So for the time being, Wicks is way on the back burner. Christian Watson now potentially startable, but he's always a little bit risky with his play style and his injury history. But the upside's there. I mean, I like the player this offseason. He hasn't panned out, but I'm still definitely holding on to him where I can. Hopefully Jordan Love is healthy. If not, Malik Willis looked okay without him, so it's not the end of the world. Tucker Kraft continues to play a big snap share. He runs decent routes, 24 of 30, but they spread the ball around. So he only got 3 targets, but he keeps scoring. It's kind of like Mark Andrews, where if you play in standard or half PPR, you have no problem with it. In full PPR, there's probably still better options, but there's not a ton of great options out there. So he still is back end tight end 1 territory on a weekly basis, most likely. Josh Jacobs has been awesome. So 25 carries. He led the team in carries and routes. Chris Brooks actually played more than Emmanuel Wilson. So Emmanuel Wilson was kind of a spot start for us a little bit. No, it's just Jacobs now. Those guys on the back burner completely. Jacksonville Jaguars, rough game for him. For them, all 3 wide receivers left the game at some point. All 3 starting wide receivers left the game. Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, and Gabe Davis. So Christian Kirk, first and foremost, he broke his collarbone. That's confirmed. He is done. All right. Brian Thomas Jr. will have an MRI today on a a chest issue for him. We'll see what happens there. Gabe Davis already had a knee issue. Now he left after only 9 snaps with a shoulder issue. So we're waiting on information on BTJ and Gabe. They're expected to be good to go. Christian Kirk is out. Last year, when Christian Kirk was healthy, Evan Engram was getting 7.5 targets per game, which is good. That's exactly what we want. In the games without Christian Kirk, he was getting over 10. That is great. That is all-time awesome. That's a 170 target pace. And he had 143, the second most ever for a tight end. So Evan Engram is a guy. If you can trade for him right now before the Evan Engram owner realizes what's going on, do it. And somebody on my Twitter feed said, "Oh, what about Brian Thomas Jr.?" Well, Calvin Ridley during those games without Christian Kirk last year was getting over 10 targets a game. So how many do we expect Brian Thomas Jr. to get? If you say 10 a game, well, that's fine. Evan Engram was still doing great under those conditions. So there you go. The guy that's going to pick up the snaps for Christian Kirk is Parker Washington. So deeper leagues like the Scott Fishbowl type something, then you could definitely consider him. I think he's a pretty good player, And then Tim, if anyone gets hurt, if anyone is out of Brian Thomas Jr. or Gabe Davis, it's Tim Jones, the next man up. He's always been the next man up. Not super interested there. Evan Engram rocks. Running backs with no Travis Etienne. You got Tank Bigsby on rundowns. He got 17 carries to 1 for Dearness Johnson. He also played 19 pass plays to only 18 for Dearness Johnson. So basically, if you divide everything up into half the role is the pass, half is the run. Tank Bigsby got all of the run work and half of the pass work, so about 75% of the work. That's science. So Tank Bigsby definitely the better start than Dearness Johnson, pretty much in any game script. Cardinals, we got the Cardinals at the Dolphins here. On the Cardinals side, Marvin Harrison Jr., much better game, 60 of 66 snaps, 36 of 37 routes, 7 targets. Get him in your lineups, man. He's good. Michael Wilson's the next guy here. He got 6 targets. He scored the touchdown, 46 snaps, 29 of 37 routes run. He's the next best option. Greg Dortch and Zay Jones, they're just not playing enough. 25 snaps for Dortch, 17 for Zay Jones. Don't worry about them. Trey McBride is the man. He just hasn't scored a touchdown, but we don't chase touchdowns. We chase targets. He got 9 targets. He's great. James Conner locked in 53 to 66 snaps, 8 for Amari DiMercato, 4 for Trey Benson. So those guys are just handcuffed. We'd have to basically, if James Conner got hurt, we'd pick up Trey Benson, but Amari DiMercato would still play some pass downs, but they're just pure handcuffs here. Kyler Murray, still a good player. Miami Dolphins, Tua came back, and guess what? Tyreek Hill, 9 targets. Jalen Waddle, 6 targets. Don't worry about the wide receiver 3 on this team because they use the fullback. Alec Ingold, 27 snaps, was more than 16 for Malik Washington, more than 11 for Odell, more than the 4 for Dwayne Eskridge. Jonnu Smith ran 29 of 40 routes. Not ideal. We like that number to be higher, but he did get 6 targets. So he's not quite in the George Kittle role because George Kittle plays like the whole game. But as far as spot starts go, then you can consider Johnny Smith because they don't use a wide receiver 3. That does put him in that chair, even though the real problem is that the running back also gets a ton of targets, Devon Achane. So, like, picture the 49ers when everyone's healthy. Ayuk, Debo, Christian McCaffrey, who actually gets targets, unlike Jordan Mason, and Kittle. Then it's kind of spread out a little bit and it's a little thin. That's kind of what this is, except John who doesn't get the full snap share. So it's really not a great situation, but you could do worse. Uh, Achan played 38 snaps, 30 for Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is the preferred goal line guy. That's just the way they do it. But Achan is getting all these targets and he gets plenty of carries too. So you can probably start them both. There you go. Jets at Patriots. Patriots beat the Jets. I mean, it's as a Patriots fan, like I do want to still get a good draft pick, but that is funny. I mean, you got to admit it's funny. So Drake May got a concussion here. Hopefully he gets healthy and gets back, but Jacoby Brissett took over. Things went fine from there. The leaders in routes run, Kayshon Boutte with 32 out of 36, and he got 6 targets. I mean, it's been 3 games in a row now, so we have to admit that he's a guy that is kind of a permanent fixture with Drake May at quarterback. Or, I mean, it stayed that way even when May left after 20 snaps. So he's in. He's a guy. Kendrick Bourne, 52 snaps out of 67. Demario Douglas, not sure if he was still getting over the sickness or not, but 39 out of 67 snaps for him. Hunter Henry was actually second in routes run behind Kayshon Boutte with 30. That's at 30 out of 36. He got 6 targets against a tough Jets team. He is, he played 57 to 67 snaps. He is our top waiver ad once again. I'm telling you, keep your eye on this guy. If anything were to happen to Austin Hooper, who does play a little bit and get a couple targets, then there'd be wheels up for Henry for sure. And then running back, Ramondre Stevenson, 55 of 67 snaps. Ramondre is locked in. Antonio Gibson, only 12 snaps. Maybe he's still banged up from last week. He did get some kind of key carries, but again, it's hard to spot start a guy that's kind of the backup on a team that's not that good. The Jets, speaking of teams that are not that good, lost here. Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams got like all the wide receiver targets, literally all of Xavier Gibson got 1. I think it was a touchdown, of course, but they each got 8 and 6. So those guys are in your lineup. Tyler Conklin, can't trust him as the third fiddle, but he scored because it's National Tight Ends Day. Even Jeremy Ruckert got 3 targets. Brees Hall, 46 snaps to 19 for Braylon Allen. So he's still way ahead of Allen there, and you just got to start him. You got to start these guys. Next one here, Falcons at Buccaneers. Drake London, 62 snaps. Darnell Mooney, 58. Raymond McLeod, 55. That's out of 62. They basically all ran 30 routes out of 31. London and Mooney are the preferred targets. Ray gets his little gadget stuff and a carry, so he's kind of a spot start. But I mean, like, London and Mooney are in our lineups. Kyle Pitts is in our lineup, even though they kind of went run heavy in the second half and Charlie Warner came in and played more. I'll have to check the injury status, but I mean, Pitts is capable of breaking off big plays, as we know, scored two touchdowns here. So we're feeling good about Pitts. And then Bijan, 42 snaps to 22 for Tyler Algier. Again, they split up the carries because, you know, they kind of had the game here towards the end. And but Tyler Algier, 12 carries to 13 for Bijan, but Bijan got 6 targets. So again, it's still Bijan. Tyler Algier is a spot start. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. Basically, what we saw here is Jalen McMillan played a primary outside role, as did Trey Palmer. So Trey Palmer played for Mike Evans. McMillan was outside, and then Sterling Shepard played in the slot a lot. So they kind of changed what they did. Before, what they would do is they would have Mike Evans at split end, and then Chris Godwin would play flanker. But when they bring in a third wide receiver, Godwin would move inside, and Jalen McMillan would play flanker outside. Instead of doing it that way with McMillan in the Godwin role, what they did is they had Palmer as a split end and McMillan as the flanker. But then when Sterling Shepard would come in, Shepard would play slot and McMillan would stay on the outside. So they kind of changed the way they operate. It's not I we wanted McMillan in the Godwin role, but that didn't quite happen. He's still going to be an every down player, but he's going to play more on the outside. And he got 7 targets, he got a carry. So we still like it, but it's not necessarily perfect, if you know what I'm saying. Cade Otton, we knew he was going to be super underpriced on DraftKings. He was the top player on the slate. We had him in the article. Doesn't have to be hard. 10 targets, good player, scored a touchdown. Baker Mayfield, you know what? I got to apologize. I moved him pretty far down the rankings because he didn't have his top guys. He's just a good quarterback. So what are you gonna do? Sean Tucker only played 7 snaps, so kind of back on the back burner for him. Bucky Irving, despite dealing with turf toe, played 31 of 73, and Rashad White led with 41 of 73. Rashad White got more. Uh, he got more pass snaps. He got more carry. Sorry, he got 6 carries. Bucky got 9 carries. So Bucky got more carries. Rashad got more pass work. I guess that's going to be the split for the time being. But Bucky still got 7 targets. So I mean, it's very close. I think it's still Bucky. It's just the turf toe is always scary because that's a tough injury to deal with. Next one here, Saints at Chargers. Chargers, you had no Quentin Johnston, so someone had to step up. That was Simi Fehoko, the former Dallas Cowboy. So out of 38 possible routes, Fehoko ran 31, Josh Palmer ran 31, Lad McConkey ran 30, but clearly the McConkey is the most talented. Even though he's not playing as much, he played 41 of 66 snaps. He's the most trustworthy guy here. Jalen Rager, Jalen Johnson, don't worry about them. They didn't play enough. With no Hayden Hurst, Will Disley ran the most routes, 28. Stone Smart, our guy, only played 1 snap, so don't worry about him. Will Disley, 7 targets. I mean, he's involved. And with Hayden Hurst comes back, maybe they'll just stick with Disley. Still hard to trust a guy like that. Doesn't have a lot of breakaway speed or broken tackle potential or really like red zone threat. But you know what? Targets are targets. So a spot start if you need it. J.K. Dobbins played 54 snaps, 11 for Kamani Vidal, 1 for Hassan Haskins. So we're still gonna Vidal still he got carries when he was in there, but Dobbins is clearly the top guy. For the Saints, we told you guys this would happen. I'm not sure why people were still like clamoring over Bub Means, but we told you that Bub Means was playing for Chris Olave when Olave was out. And Mason Tipton was playing for Rashid Shaheed when Rashid Shaheed was out. And people were still like, oh, Bub Means, blah, blah, blah. But we were telling you Mason Tipton over Bub Means because Olave is going to be back. And guess what happened? Olave came back and he played his role. He played 58 out of 73 snaps. And Mason Tipton played the Shaheed role. So he played 56, only 2 snaps less than Olave. Bub Means only played 14 snaps because Olave's back. Equanimeous St. Brown played the wide receiver 3 role, but they use a fullback and all that stuff. So, and all these multiple tight end sets. So you're not going to get much from the third wide receiver. So it's Olave and it's Tipton moving forward. Tipton didn't get added in many leagues, so he's an ad for me, especially for when Derek Carr gets back. Juwan Johnson got banged up. Foster Moreau picked up a lot of those snaps. Taysom Hill did his thing. He ran a few more routes, which is nice. So, couple targets, couple carries. Taysom Hill, if you must, just know that the floor is so bad that like you don't want to trust this guy 3 weeks in a row in fantasy playoffs. People that did that last year got, he had a game with less than zero point 0.3 points or whatever during fantasy playoffs. So be very careful. Alvin Kamara rules, targets, carries, awesome. Kendra Miller got hurt again. Surprise, surprise. Jamal Williams will be the guy there. Bills at Seahawks. So Amari Cooper still trying to get up to speed here. It's tough to learn a new language. So 38 snaps for him out of 76. The leader was Keon Coleman with 63 out of 76. So maybe he will be a permanent guy. Khalil Shakir played 44 of 76. So he still just kind of rotates. But he got 9 targets, right? And a carry. So they like Shakir. They like Shakir. They like Kincaid. Kincaid got 7 targets. It's a matter of, do Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper affect each other? Or is it going to be Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper on the outside, and then Shakir, Kincaid, and Knox are all going to kind of rotate in that slot tight end area? We're going to have to see, but for now, there's really only 3 guys you roster, in my opinion. It's Shakir, Amari, and well, I mean, actually, no. You definitely want to roster Kincaid, and Shakir is getting the targets. And Amari versus Coleman, we don't know how this battle is going to pan out. So still hang on to him. Obviously, you're not going to drop Amari Cooper, but if you added Keon Coleman, hold on to him. I'm not going to say go crazy adding him because he got 7 targets, but like he's fighting for looks. At tight end, Kincaid, 41 snaps, Knox, 41 snaps, 23 out of 38 routes for Kincaid, 18 for Knox. They like to rotate, but Kincaid is still involved every week. He scored a touchdown. Running back, James Cook, 42 snaps, Ray Davis, 17, Ty Johnson, 15. So it's James Cook. Ray Davis is still just a handcuff at best. For Seattle, no DK Metcalf. That saw Jake Bobo pick up some snaps, 39 out of 51. But JSN led with 42, Lockett with 40, Bobo with 39. JSN led in targets. Lockett is still obviously the guy over Bobo until Metcalf gets back. Noah Fant, 21 of 32 snaps, routes run, 31 of 51, just not enough if you're going to be the third best target on the team. So people we like his athleticism. He just is not in a good spot. Maybe someday. Geno Smith, not a great game, but not a great game really from a few quarterbacks out here. Kenneth Walker was the starter and led, but Charbonnet mixed in a little more than usual, which is a shame. But Walker still had a great game. You start him every week. Charbonnet could be worth a spot start. I mean, 28 snaps for Walker, 23 for Charbonnet. Charbonnet scored a rushing touchdown. Walker still gets more carries, and they split the pass work kind of down the middle. So that's how you end up with a snap count like that. Next game here, Panthers at Broncos. So many games this week. Panthers at Broncos. Cortland Sutton led, as always, led in targets. He's the one consistent guy. Little Jordan Humphreys kind of put the kibosh on the Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, Marvin Mims celebration. So he had 61 snaps for Sutton out of 73, 44 for Jordan Humphrey, Troy Franklin, 27. And everybody else after that's also played less than 50% of the snaps. So can really only trust Sutton. And then, of course, at tight end, Lucas Kroll only got 1 target. You had 18 routes for Kroll, 14 for Trotman, 13 for Atkins. That's out of a possible 41. So just still, it's not as bad as the Colts, but it's still bad. DFS dart throw for Lucas Kroll at the most. You're not going to start Trotman. That's crazy. Javonte Williams led in all phases, so you like that. 42 snaps for him, 23 for Jaleel McLaughlin. Audric Estime is just on the back burner. Panthers here with no uh, with no Deontay Johnson and no Adam Humphreys. What we saw was David Moore stepped up and played 50 snaps, ran 35 routes. Jalen Coker, the other rookie, played 42 snaps, 33 routes. So he was second there, got the 6 targets. Xavier Leggett played 38 snaps, so fewer than Coker, but he got 7 targets. Leggett and Coker are the interesting guys. I've seen David Moore. I've seen Jonathan Mingo. These guys are rookies. They're getting carries. They're getting some looks. They're trying them out. So those are the interesting guys for fantasy. Unfortunately, at tight end, Jatavian Sanders with Tommy Tremble back kind of went back on the back burner. I don't know. I would love to just see them lean into the rookie, but Tommy Tremble, 37 snaps, Sanders, 22, 20 routes for Tremble, 18 for Sanders out of 41. That's not going to do it. So not interested there. Chuba Hubbard got 45 snaps to 21 for Miles Sanders. Sanders did get a bunch of targets, so he's kind of the pass down guy, but he only got 1 carry. So it's Chuba there until Jonathan Brooks gets back. Chiefs, Raiders. We were told that DeAndre Hopkins was going to play a big snap share. He only played 23 of 72 snaps, so not quite the case. Justin Watson did his split guard business, 55 snaps. Xavier Worthy played 38, so they kind of rotated guys a bit, but Worthy got 8 targets. So for now, it's Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins. And then when Juju gets back, Juju's probably going to play slot, so that'll be the case. That's the situation. They like 2 tight end sets. Travis Kelce, 57 snaps. Noah Gray, 52. And Noah Gray plays in line, gets a couple targets, maybe deep DFS, but they boosted his price up. He's not even worth that. Kareem Hunt, 42 snaps, 22 for Samaje Perine, but Kareem Hunt, 21 carries. He's the guy. On the Raiders side, you got Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers are the 2 outside guys. DJ Turner plays the slot. So 53 snaps for Tucker at a 58, 47 for Myers, 31 for Turner. So it's Tucker and Myers. Brock Bowers is the guy. I mean, he didn't have a great game here, but 31 of 36 routes. He's still our guy. Still tight end 1, honestly. Him and George Kittle and now Evan Engram also way up there. Alexander Madison, 38 snaps to 17 for Adula. Zamir White, only 2 snaps, so he's way on the back burner there. Only a couple games left. Washington versus the Bears. Boy, crazy ending. Hail Mary. Don't let teams get you in a position where they can win with a Hail Mary. Keep the game out of the gray area. That's the whole thing. You can't complain about it because you didn't put yourself in a position to win earlier in the game. For Washington, Terry McLaurin is obviously the top dog. Noah Brown finally took over as the wide receiver two. He actually played more snaps than McLaurin, 60 to 53. Ran 37 routes to 35 for McLaurin, got 6 targets. We're liking that. Zach Ertz, still a guy that's on the table, 11 targets, 56 to 74 snaps. If anything happens to him, we skip over John Bates. It goes right to Ben Sennett. That's my opinion. I'm not interested in John Bates. At running back, Brian Robinson, 16 carries, but Austin Eckler played more snaps because he plays the pass downs. So 28 routes run to 12 for Brian Robinson, and that's the split. That's how it's going to be. Chicago Bears, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore were the full-time wide receivers. 61 snaps out of 63 for Keenan Allen, 60 for DJ Moore. They got the targets. Rome Odunze is the third fiddle, but they used enough 3 wide receiver sets to see him play a decent amount. Cole Kmet only ran 20 of 33 routes. We warned you not to use Cole Kmet. I hope you're not using him as your tight end. Gerald Everett played a little bit more here. Actually got 2 targets to 1 for Kmet. Kmet kind of bailed himself out a little bit with a 2-point conversion, but just not a guy we're interested in. DeAndre Swift, 46 snaps to 17 for Roshan. He got all the carries, more of the pass routes. Swift is the guy. Roshan did a lot of pass blocking, is what he ended up doing. Last game here, the night game, Cowboys at 49ers. For the 49ers, we were all interested to see what happened with Brandon Ayuk, and what ended up happening was Deebo Samuel played his role outside. Chris Conley came in and played the Ayuk role outside, and Ricky Pearsall played the Juwan Jennings role in the slot. That's a bit of an indictment, in my opinion, on Ricky Pearsall because you want to see him take that Ayuk role. When Deebo or Ayuk were both out, Juwan Jennings would go and play that outside role. So, and he did in week 2 and scored all the touchdowns. So here's unfortunately what happens now is that because Pearsall was playing Jennings' role, either Jennings comes back to play his role and Chris Conley keeps the Ayuk role, which would suck for fantasy, or Jennings comes back and takes Conley off the field and Pearsall remains in that slot role, which is also not great for Pearsall because this team uses a fullback. Kyle Juszczyk played 39 of 68 snaps, so the slot guy is never going to play the full game. So no matter how you slice it, this was not a great outcome for Ricky Pearsall, in my opinion. And Juwan Jennings is a guy you got to add, right? For when he gets back. George Kittle, awesome. National Tight End Day spokesperson. 28 of 34 routes run, 7 targets, bunch of yards, and a touchdown. He's awesome. He can do more with less because he has speed. We talk about it all the time. Jordan Mason got banged up, and Isaac Garendo stepped in, but they have the bye week this week, so time for Mason to get healthy. Maybe time for Christian McCaffrey to get back. That would be cool, wouldn't it? Dallas Cowboys here. CeeDee Lamb, awesome. 55 snaps. Jalen Tolbert, 55 snaps. So even though he only got 3 targets because CeeDee Lamb was getting them all and Jake Ferguson was getting some underneath stuff, even in a bad matchup, it's Lamb as the guy you trust. Jake Ferguson, this was never going to be a good matchup for him, but at least he got some targets. Next week, he's back on the menu. And he's already had his bye week, which is nice. So he's a safe but boring play. With no Rico Dowdle, you saw Zeke get 28 snaps, 17 for Dalvin Cook. Zeke got more pass work and more carries, but it was the first game for Dalvin. Hunter Lepke, the fullback, got a little bit of work too. So that's it for us. Again, reminder that Fantasy Alarm right now, you can go over, use promo code YEAR, right? YEAR, and get 50% off the annual membership. And you don't even necessarily need to commit to the full year because you get a 7-day free trial to check everything out. So you can see all my waiver wire articles, of which I do 3. You can see all our content from all our guys, and we have different guys doing every position for football. So I do the tight end for DFS. John Impemba does quarterback. Colby Conway does wide receiver. Like we split it all up so that you're getting focus on the positions so that you can build your lineup with extreme accuracy rather than just somebody throwing, trying to do it all. It's just too much work for one person, right? We recognize that. We provide that for you. And that's just football. The All Pro membership gets you everything: baseball, hockey, MMA. Our MMA guy, Mike Iannone, crushes all of it. All of it's going on right now. Did I mention basketball? John Impemba, James Grande, Crush Basketball. So get set up, get going on that right now. Use promo code YEAR, YEAR. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on Tuesday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. and all week long on Sirius XM, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.